we are going to be doing a week in review.
I'm Anand, and with me is Kavita, founder and CEO of Voiro. Package A, which was television in India, was won by Star and Disney, and therefore the Walt Disney Company at large. With me this time for the opening episode of season 2 is, as always, Kavita Shenoy, founder and CEO of Voiro, and Jitin George. Welcome. It's clearly future tech on display, and anyone who geeks out over cameras or equipment is going to have a field day.
How come you're not speaking in a British accent? Come on.
No.
You can do it.
This is season 3.
Woohoo!
One of the reasons we record all of our podcasts on a Friday is because the mood is only a little different. We're always more relaxed.
Anil walks in with this bright red Apple candy bar. It wasn't the latest model or anything of that sort.
It's an SC, iPhone SC.
It has been described by the New York Times as the greatest podcast on earth. Today we have with us Krishna Rao.
Thank you so much, Anand. Thank you, Kavita. I've been a regular follower of your podcast.
Oh, Dubai is fun.
Jimmy, you didn't like it.
The Open RTB 2.6 protocol. So welcome Shiven. How are you today?
Okay, guys. I think it is.
5-0.
5.
Cheers guys. Cheers. Where are you? Why are you not in there? Why aren't you in there?
Hello and welcome to the Voiro podcast, season 4, episode 11. Today is a very special episode because we are celebrating the 50th episode of the podcast.
Hey, 5-0.
We have lasted. Whether people are listening to us or not.
That's not the point.
We have to trust the process.
So, in the beginning, did you think 50 episodes will get there? It was like,
It took us a year to go from 0 to the first episode.
It's true.
So from there to take another year to go to 50.
yeah.
I think it's
We were at WeWork and we wanted everybody else to start having this conversation in office. And so I told Anand, let's start talking to each other and let's record it. And he said, yeah, okay. But then we were just coming off the pandemic and we just didn't know how to have conversations at all. So we were so stuck. And then finally, a year later, after, back and forthing and people were creating so many of their own podcasts, Anand just went and bought this mic. And he came and said, I've bought this mic and we're going to do this. And if we do
five
of them, I will expense the mic. So that
Otherwise,
was
it's out of my own pocket. Yeah.
So, skin in the game and all that. And so we took it up as a challenge. And then next thing I knew, Santosh was in on it. They set it all up. And in our downstairs WeWork office, which is some of the first few episodes that you see with us sitting.
And in my head, my backup plan was if we don't do it and it is suddenly my property, I'll have to start my own podcast, which I was not ready to do. So am I glad that we did this?
and it has been going great because it's just not us enjoying it and having fun, but we get some really good reviews and like people listen to us, and it's always a surprise and a very nice surprise to have. So is there any process, how you prepare every week? Because you don't have any previous experience, right?
No. Even running a company, this is the first time.
Just winging it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I think the process for us was to, like we said, we wanted people to start thinking more about ad tech at Voiro. And we're a very, very specialized product. And it does not help if you come here and try and be a generalist. So you have to really try and find something within ad tech that is a hook for you and you're passionate about. And you read trade publications, have an opinion and all of that. And you really can't force people to have an opinion. You have to inspire them, I assume, to have an opinion. And as you know on this podcast, both Anand and me and you and everybody else in this room are pretty opinionated about various things. So we decided to make it fun and start the podcast, but it meant that we had to make sure we were on top of things week in, week out. So then we started the AdTech Slack channel.
Yeah. Within the office. So I think we've always been just clued into the industry, but just for ourselves, just to read, just to know more. This kind of forced us to always be like, just to make sure that we are aware of what's happening this week in our industry, I had to go and recurate my LinkedIn and my Twitter and make sure I'm getting the right newsletters. And anytime she drops the name of a newsletter, I would go and subscribe to it. But the whole point is it keeps us on our toes But then we kept the format itself conversational. We just said, let's talk about whatever was happening in the industry. And I think I like the fact that we chose to not be too hung up on a format. There are weeks where we just broke down what was happening, and there are weeks where we went into a specific topic. And then we had to sort of prepare accordingly. But I think the fact that we've just kept it casual and conversational means that we came to this podcast with no expectation, with no plan that somebody would listen to it. We just came and said, let's record a conversation. And as long as that conversation stays fun, we'll keep doing it.
Yeah. I must tell you, when we started Voiro back in 2014, Anand was just back from the US and I was just out of a job with Google, and Anil and Jimmy both came back from Jimmy had come back from the US as well, and Anil had come out of a self-imposed break that he took after he did 5 years at Yahoo. And that conversation, I mean, that is a very storied thing where he just decided 5 years is it and he's going to chill in Pondicherry. But Anand was our quintessential return from America, yuppie. And he gave us a lot of things that we still hold in our day-to-day habits. We started running. None of us used to run at that point in time, but then he started running, and I mean he taught us all how to run. And then there was this whole thing about, hey, how do you get your news and information? Like from the newspaper. Like, what do you mean? Like, where do you mean news and information, right? Or magazines or people. But there was no active outreach that we made to access information. So he started talking about various things to be able to collate news and information and articles, and he used to pay out of his nose to make sure that he got those articles. And that's how, and at the same time, Google RSS, the RSS feed.
Google Reader.
Yeah, that got sunset. And so there was this huge scuffle, I mean, only with Anand. The rest of us were like, this is not going to change our lives. But then that's how I got introduced to Feedly.
There was Feedly, there was Flipboard, Dig started something on their own. But I remember back in Texas, I was surrounded by people who would all be on Google Reader, and Google Reader had a social element to it. It's really silly that they killed that product and tried Google Plus and failed at that too, because Google Reader had a really nice community around it. So everyone who was in my Google Reader community was trying to figure out the next best product, and that community just died. None of the other products had a social element to it. This group is not going to go use Google Plus.
Yeah.
But I was very enamored by the concept of having a filter and making sure that you got the right information every day and allowing it to come to you, as opposed to you going out there and finding it. And we started doing that.
Yeah. And at that point in time, the ad tech space as well as the media space in India was not that storied. We didn't have that much happening because there was nothing to happen there. There was some stuff about YouTube maybe. There were things like launches by Microsoft. But the tech space in terms of stories and articles were only about new technology in maybe server tech and or chips or phones and hardware. There was and in the content space, it was all about releases, about movies and actors, about studios. Nothing really as it is today. So when we started out, we were actually stalking a lot of the US publications because it was very interesting, and we tried to get ideas from there of what we wanted to do here, and it was mainly around YouTube content creators at that time. But then from there to now, we've actually created a habit of continuously reading. So every morning we'll get up and we'll have our set of things that we will breeze through, read, and then we'll share on our group. Then we started sharing it on the ad tech channel. A lot of times, I remember when Rohan was here, you and Rohan used to post so much on the ad tech channel initially. It was almost overwhelming. And then we tried to strike up conversations with people about, hey, have you read this on the ad tech channel? And you would just get crickets from them. They'd be like, yeah, but I didn't understand what that meant. And that would strike up a conversation. But yeah, so I think the way we prepare has been something that we've been doing for the last 10 years. And it's a habit that we are just translating at the end of the week.
Right.
But I must say, like we keep saying on our podcast as well, Thursday evenings is a bit of existential crisis for us.
My heart rate spikes a little bit.
Like, what do we talk about?
Yeah, it doesn't matter the fact that we've been doing this for a year, but just the fear that we will stand here and blank out.
Yeah.
And which has happened.
It has happened, and we've had some not so great episodes. I remember Leena saying, it was okay. It's done. And us walking away.
Yeah, but we do this every week on week.
Yeah.
So you are content creators in your own right. So the question is, do you ever want to stop? And
Oh, many times.
Did I or do I?
Do I? There are many
Did I?
times.
Yes, many times.
Many times.
She's wanted to stop, I've wanted to stop, and Thursday will roll around and the other one will say, no.
Just do it.
No,
Just get on and finish
I
it.
will carry the episode. You just, like Kavita's told this to me. She's like, you just show up, I'll carry the episode. Just show up.
Just show up. You'll figure something out. Or I'll get Anil on and stuff like that. Because, the other thing that really helped us, and I think this is something that is a life lesson, or if somebody wants to start a company or even create a podcast, is you need a team rallying around the podcast, right? So we have Gautam, Santosh, and you who'd show up for the podcast, knowing full well that we have to wing this episode. We are writing our own content. Sometimes you don't know what we're going to talk about. Off late, Santosh has tried to push us and, give us some kind of an outline and email us the night before saying, here are the 10 things that are happening in the ad tech space. And so we pick out a couple of things to talk about. But I think doing something or going the distance on your own is far harder than if you had a team. So I think the cadence and the fact that we turned up here and we actually recorded an episode every time was because you guys showed up, you set up the mics and say,
Yeah.
Do you think?
I can't avoid it now.
Yeah.
No, but to your point, many times. Many times felt like an imposter. Many times felt like we shouldn't be doing this. We're not experts.
yeah.
But then it's an industry that we love, and we may not have the perfect opinion every time, but we have an opinion and we want to talk about it. And I go back to what I said earlier. We came and did every episode because it's fun to do these episodes. And I guess that's what it's about.
So when you look back, a year back, we've finished a year. So what are your first thoughts on the journey that from where you started, where we've come on the podcast?
I think I need a speech therapist. 100%. Sometimes when I hear myself, I'm like, why am I pronouncing words like this? But I think the journey that has been made is significant from an absolute cadence perspective. I'm proud of the fact that we trusted the process.
Yeah.
And that we have a body of work to lean on. It has also given us a great canvas for us to be able to talk to other people without being in their face. Like we had a retail webinar recently. We spoke to Add-on more about sales processes. And these people who actually shared with us information that they would not have otherwise shared with you if you had to go to their office and just plonk in front of them.
Absolutely.
In a sales pitch.
Yeah.
It gives us the much needed kind of a break from active selling or active soliciting, so to speak. Yeah. And it's a big human element to it. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. For you, Anand, has this podcast, this journey, like showing up and preparing for it, how has this impacted you professionally, personally? Has it enriched you?
Yeah. It has made me very comfortable with being zero at something. It's made me very comfortable with saying, I don't know this.
Hey, that's my level at this point. Like everything in life.
Because we're saying stuff that's going to be out on my LinkedIn, out on our company's LinkedIn. It's out on various channels, right? And it took me a while to realize that I don't have to come here and have expert opinions. I can just come here and be curious. Yeah. And at some point, I moved from feeling like an imposter to just realizing that maybe I can flex my curiosity muscle more. And that's when I started to get a lot more excited about it. It's like, I'm curious about something. I want to know more. I want to question it. I want to know why. I'm okay with the fact that I don't know something at all. Because we've taken on some technical concepts as well. We talked about OpenRTB as a protocol, which I did not understand before we did it. We broke down Apple's ATT policy framework. Didn't know anything about it. But the fact that we've had multiple people chime in within this room itself and had external guests, the podcast is actually a learning experience for me more than anything else. And the fact that we just became comfortable speaking. I mean, Kavita was invited on Varun Dugirala's podcast. We went on the Indian Dream podcast. Yeah. So the fact that we're just open to sitting and having a conversation and not afraid to sound stupid, to sound ignorant, or to say something that maybe is an opinion that only we hold. I think we spend a lot of time afraid to have an opinion, and this has kind of shaken that.
And I think that's very Indian education conditioning, right? In a classroom, especially, when I went to school, I don't know whether you went to NPS. Everything was,
I have a doubt.
you have a doubt. Yeah. Everything was by the book, right? You could not go beyond the book. You couldn't, there was no time to have these kind of conversations where you would actually explore the concept of what you were actually learning. And so it is very difficult for most of us to break out of it and have a conversation that could be freewheeling or, driven and led by curiosity, and not be afraid that you're going to be judged at the end of the day. Now, it's a different thing that we're doing it on a podcast and people are listening to us. So there is some level of responsibility where we can't just like fling our opinions about. So we usually talk about the week in review. We reference people who are experts in the industry, and then we give our opinion or our outtake for it. And the expectation that I have from the podcast is that we will soon start getting people who will at least write back to us to tell us whether we were right or wrong, disagree or agree with us on what we said. Yeah. And that, I think, that's when the other shoe will drop and it actually becomes a more interactive medium.
Yeah, no, because it's really building connections, right?
Yes.
I was at a customer's office a couple of months ago, where I absolutely got my ass whooped, right? Which is part of the game. But right before that meeting, someone in the room pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I love the podcast." I was like, "How do
we were going in to get slaughtered.
How do I respond to this situation?"
So,
thank you, and then looked the other way and got my ass whooped. We were at IBC in Amsterdam last year, and Archana Anand from Z was on stage on a panel, and of course, she's a very, very senior person, and there was a queue of people waiting to speak to her. And she came up to us and she said, "Hey, I love listening to the podcast. You guys are just jamming and it's just so easy to listen to." And I was so happy to sort of hear that. It's building connections with people.
So, talking about, things that we talked about, do you think we are still, we have the same issues as the AdTech community? We are talking about the same issues and the same problems. We are the same point where we were 1 year back. We keep revisiting that.
No. It's become far more complicated.
That's worse.
It's become worse. But it's still, it's so much more to talk about. It's also because we've kind of gotten to it, both feet in it. And we've kind of branched out from only talking about OTT and streaming to talking about retail, to talking about out of home, talking about advertising as a concept, the tech behind it, the politics behind it.
Yes.
Which is very interesting and gossipy. It's become a lot more complex because we made it complex for ourselves, and I think we revel in it because there are many angles you can look at every story on, whether it is Disney and Bob Iger and the tongue-in-cheek concept, the aspect of Succession that is the biggest thing on his mind right now, whether it's us talking about the shows that we are watching, or the tech that drives actual advertising like you did with RTP.
Yeah. I think it's a funny industry, like many industries, but this is ours. Like Kavita said, the fabric is so intricate and complicated. In many ways, it's gotten worse. In many ways, it's gotten clearer. Right? There are certain models that cannot scale. There are certain issues that must be resolved before we can move forward. And like Kavita said, when we first started this company, I don't think India was on the map the way it is today. Right? I remember when Sacred Games came out, it was a monumental moment, right? Global streaming company making an Indian show for India, in India.
With Indian actors.
With very large budgets, because it's high quality, right? While that is a monumental moment, that itself is not entirely sustainable by itself. And so it's so interesting that this is a market that everybody wants a piece of. Because it's so big. Actually is a huge opportunity, but it's a very hard one to crack. It's a very hard one to crack. And we've been on the inside of that both because of the sort of customers we have the privilege of serving, as well as the fact that we're also spectators and consumers of the industry. I think that is rare. We are a technology provider to the industry, we're a spectator of the industry, we're consumers of the same industry, and consumers every day, every single day, right? This is not some stray relationship. Like I consume content all the time. And so for me, that's such an interesting relationship that we have, which kind of lends itself to how we talk about this podcast. There are many hats we wear. Many hats. Sometimes we wear the hat of a technology provider who's frustrated. Sometimes we wear the hat of a consumer who's very thrilled about what we're getting, despite the fact that it's totally unsustainable for the people who provide that service to us. And I think that makes it interesting. Like, I don't know which version of me shows up to the podcast. I really don't know.
The other thing, Leena, one of the things that even Paul Gubbins said in some interview that he was making, where this whole concept of these acronyms in AdTech.
Yes, I love that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of that. He's like, hey man, this is an industry as complex, as large, as deep, as valuable as any other industry there is out there. So you make it your job to know what it's all about.
Yeah.
Don't stand there and say, I don't know about anything about your CPM, CPC, CPV. If you're in this industry, make an effort. You're not good. Like he akined it to, civil engineering. He's like, I'm sure there are acronyms there. I mean, you're not going to say, I don't know it and then make, and not be part of the industry. So I think the days of trying to dumb down advertising and make it one of those things which is like, oh my God, Google is just a one-trick pony and it's just about ads. It's not simple. Some of the world's brightest engineers have worked on making that, a $5 trillion industry. And I don't think we should, make it belittle it and be so reductive about it at all times.
I think on both sides, being a technology provider to this industry has given us a deeper appreciation for every player in the industry. And running this podcast has given me a deep appreciation for other podcasters. Because I'm just
yes.
It is hard.
And most of the podcasters either do it by themselves or they have a guest.
Yeah.
Right? And that, how unnerved we get when we have a guest, because we're like, oh my God, what if this guest only speaks when they are spoken to? What do we do then?
But it definitely needs more conversations, right?
Yeah.
About this.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So I'm going to call this podcast a successful podcast. I think
baby.
We made it. So what do you think? What does it take to make a successful podcast?
Team. I think you need team. I'm a big believer in team. Team and passion.
For me, in the words of Tom Cruise from Top Gun, don't think, just do.
Yeah, just do.
Just do.
Yeah. And the last thing is cadence. Just make sure you show up.
Yeah.
Show up and just record it. And I know that we don't do too much editing. Do we do any editing, Santosh? Except for when Anand says some unsavory things that we need to cut out. Yeah. No, but I don't.
Most grateful.
Yeah, but we usually have a one take and we put up whatever we have. I think it's successful because we're all here in this room. I don't think if Gautam didn't show up and plug us all into the microphones and make sure that he actually renders it and puts it out, or Santosh doesn't come here every Friday at 10 a.m., walking in with his coffee, or you coming saying, okay, so guys, what are we going to talk about today? Or Anand saying, oh my God, Kavita, are you prepared? Or I'm saying, oh, I have no idea what we're going to say today. And then we spend the first 10 or 15 minutes writing in absolute silence. I think that is the energy that we all feed off of each other. And I think that's why we're successful. And I think that's why we will go to another 50 episodes.
Absolutely.
To 100 more.
Yeah. And anytime any of us says, I have an idea for the podcast, there is no question. Everyone just rallies behind that idea. That's it. It's like, okay, let's make it happen.
Yeah.
That's it. And I feel that spirit of experimentation, and it doesn't matter. Sometimes it goes really well. Sometimes it lands funnily.
And we've had our sales guys, our product guys, everybody on this podcast, right?
Yeah. We've had many people. Anil has become a celebrity despite making a cameo
You remember
appearance.
that time? So we went to one of our customers' places, and it was again one of those things that we were doing. We were stepping outside our comfort zone, and we were having a meeting. We were talking about our roadmap, and we had taken Anil along and things like that. And we had this one episode where we spoke about Anil and his red phone, because he did not want to get distracted. Anil can be distracted by anything, right? So, and he's aware of it, so he wants to keep his distractions to a minimal. So he bought himself a iPhone, which is really small. It is red in color, and it had a specific amount of battery and a smaller screen. And so that particular story apparently caught this gentleman's ear. And so when we walked in and we said, hey, this is Anand and this is Anil Karar, one of our co-founders and chief architect, with the red phone.
Yeah.
Guy
And
with the red
Anil
phone,
was like,
yes.
what? He's like, no, I heard about it on the podcast. And we were like, oh my God, that podcast was like 6 months ago. So, but it's a great icebreaker, and I'm telling you, it humanizes you, because we're talking about these things and people are listening to us. And so at least people know that, you're authentic, you're genuine. You're not out there to just, make a sale, have a transaction relationship.
Yeah.
You cannot be that way in this industry. You really need to want to be here because it is chaotic.
So, any favorite episodes?
This
I
one,
think that's-
I think this one is
Yeah,
my
we've
favorite.
never done.
We've never
I'm
done
the only one
mimosas.
who's down 2.
Mimosas.
Yeah.
I think this one is my favorite episode. It will be my favorite episode. Then the one we did on trust recently.
Trust. I was actually about to say that.
Yeah.
It
That
was,
was a
an
good-
abstract one, but it was
Yeah.
really nice.
Yeah. The one with IPL was
IPL.
good.
IPL one, we got a lot of feedback because we broke down some numbers.
Yeah. It was
A lot
very
of
it was
folks liked
very topical at that point in time. And we took the effort. I remember Anand took the effort to break down the math behind it.
I
And
remember I protested 5 minutes before the episode because I had all the numbers down in rupees, and suddenly everyone said, "You have to have it in dollars."
You're
I'm
like, "No,
no, I don't want to do it. And they said, "Absolutely not. You have to." So
and
I
then
did
there
the
was it
math.
was in a crore million or some. Oh my god! It was a mess. But then we made it simple.
Yeah,
We made it simple.
I like the episode with Krishna from OTTVerse.
Yeah, even that
Yeah.
got a lot of traction.
Yes, it did.
So much going on with transcoding and what happens behind the scenes when we just press play.
And he's really good. He's really
Yeah.
good teacher.
And I think it came through because he's genuinely very passionate. Like
Yeah.
you said, he's a good teacher.
Yeah. So everything was simple. It was nicely presented. Even I remember after the RTB conversation, you came back and said, "I understand everything now."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, to break that down, what happens before and what goes on behind before you see an ad
Yeah.
on the screen, it was amazing. I was like, oh, this is what happens. So I love that episode.
Man, these mimosas are good. Do we drink every day in office?
They're every day on podcast, definitely.
Do
But
like the French do.
Yeah, like the French. Yeah.
so, what do we see in the future of the podcast? Anyone you want to have, we will give shout outs to whoever we want on the podcast. This is our plug. Paul Gubbins,
Yeah, for sure.
we would love to have you on the podcast.
Alan Walk from TV Rev. I'd like to obviously get some of our customer CROs and
I would.
CEOs. Z,
would.
Sony, Hotstar, Dinatanti, all of these guys. Because
Traveling
they-
next week and maybe ask some
Yeah.
of them.
because they have a lot of people also. I remember one of our investors who had come the other day and we just asked him a couple of questions. He started talking. He said, "But I don't know whether you'll find this of any note." And we were like, "No, just keep talking."
Yeah.
Because we'll take away what we need to take away from it, from our conversation. So a lot of times people who are in positions of power or have done a lot of time and have a lot of experience sometimes think that maybe what they have to say is not relevant anymore, but it's very relevant because we've not been to the journey that they've been through. And so looking at stuff through their eyes always is always so informative.
Yeah. I want Terence Kawaja.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And I want to one day be a part of one of his
Videos,
videos. Yeah. Then that's when we've made it.
you've arrived, is it?
That's when we have arrived.
Excellent.
Before we hit 100,
Before we hit 100, for sure.
we'll do that.
Great. And I want to, if anybody's listening right now, I want to thank you for listening because it's one of those things that we never thought would happen. And I knew that my mum and your mum were the most avid audiences.
They cannot have enough.
Yeah. And every time they'd be like, "I don't understand what you said, but it was a good episode." And I was like, "Okay,
Mums.
fine." Yeah, mums. So yeah, thank you to our mums as well because it was always a good conversation starter there.
Yeah. So now what we're going to do is have a rapid fire.
Oh my. Okay.
And just to know that you don't have an idea what the questions are.
You refuse to tell us.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my
This
God.
This is
Do
a
we
true.
win? Do we win something at the end?
I don't know, but I'm going to
Just
refill my drink
refill
for
your
the rapid
glasses. Then that's
I think we
what
should
do.
refill. Yeah.
fire. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That's Leena's.
So
Okay, who are we starting out with?
I'll start with you.
Okay.
You get like 2 seconds to answer. You have to
Ooh.
answer quickly.
Okay.
You can go on for 5-10 seconds, whatever. But are you
2
ready
seconds to answer, 10 seconds
to explain if you
to
want?
explain your answer. Okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
Right? Okay. Barbie, Oppenheimer, or Rocky or Rani?
Rocky Rani or Vicky Uski Prem Kahani. What is wrong with you? That is the only answer.
Why is that the only? What do
I
you
think
love
it's a
about that movie?
fantastic entertainer. I mean, Barbie obviously pierced the culture zeitgeist of the US, and I was explaining to you earlier as well. I think they needed it as a country because they've been through a lot. They're still going through a lot. So it's something that is very specific to them. And I was never a Barbie person to begin with. Oppenheimer, yeah, okay. I mean, it's intellectual.
Did you see it?
I didn't at all.
Yet. I'm waiting for my chance.
But Rocky or Rani, man, give me a K. Joe movie any freaking day. It was amazing. I'm going to go watch it again. That Mission Impossible. So you know my spectrum of movies. I like entertaining films. So.
Anand,
Oh.
who would you put your money on in a cage fight with? Elon Musk or Zuckerberg?
Zuckerberg.
Why?
Have you not seen these videos lately? He is in monster shape. He's training. I think he's like trained by someone from the military, if I'm not mistaken. He is ripped.
I think Musk is just crazy and that the crazy guy.
Yeah, I
drive
think
a
Musk is
lot.
crazy. I think Musk will take it to where no man thought it could be taken before.
I think he has achieved great things in his life with every company before Twitter. Twitter is, I will let time decide. I will give him all of that. I believe he's a genius.
Wait,
for
has
sure.
this cage fight happened?
I
No,
think
not
it's,
yet. Not yet.
I think
But in
it's
a
sort
cage
of not
fight?
gonna-
Nah.
No.
He did something with a sumo wrestler and then broke his neck.
The sumo wrestler?
No. He did.
Okay. Oh, Elon Musk.
No, Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg.
10,000% Zuckerberg.
I mean, okay, can I ask you another question? If you had to do this in India, who will be the Elon Musk and Zuckerberg here?
I think we have it.
No?
Um,
Who do we have?
who are our super fit founders? Nitin Kamath from Zerodha is
Okay.
known for his
fitness. Okay. And who
Yeah.
will he be battling down with?
Mukesh Ambani,
Yeah.
I guess.
Or is it Vijay Shekhar Sharma
Vijay Shekhar Sharma.
and Mukesh Bhai?
Yeah.
Huh?
So that's probably the equivalent.
Oh my God.
One day we might organize that.
Oh my goodness.
So,
Probably Donald Trump, by the way. Because Mukesh Ambani, Vijay Shekhar Sharma, they're not loudmouths. Elon is a loudmouth
Yeah.
founder.
No, but India.
Yeah, in India. So for me in India, that's
Who are these?
Ashni Grover.
Oh,
yeah.
There you have it.
Oh,
Nitin Kamath,
right.
Ashni Grover.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
let's load this.
Yeah. And my money's on Nitin Kamath.
Yeah. Bangalore wins all the time.
CTV or movies at the theatre?
Oh.
Very tough choice. I love my Samsung TV, as you all know, and so does Anand. Love his own Samsung TV, not mine. And I think movies in theaters are really having a moment. But I'll choose my CTV. I'll choose CTV.
What about you?
I'll choose my CTV.
It has changed our lives.
Yeah. It changed my house. Like, I don't know what I was doing before I got this beautiful... Like, I can look at it switched off. Stare at it.
Okay, I'm not there, but okay.
Yeah.
Okay, next question is to him. 'Cause,
Yeah. The OTT show or series that you can't keep off your brain, like, has impacted you in a big way.
In the recent past, The Bear.
Why?
Oh, it's fascinating. I know you haven't seen season 2 yet, so I will keep spoilers away. But in a way, it reminds me of our life, of any founder's life. Like anytime I meet another founder and I say, I don't ask them how work is going because
Yeah.
I know that nobody wants that question.
Nobody wants that question. Everybody's like,
Because anytime if I do, I get this.
yeah, like, what do you think?
You kidding me? What do you expect? And The Bear is like that. It's chaotic. It's mad. It's stressful. But it's beautiful. Bear season 2. There's an episode. I was telling Kavita. There's an episode that made me just cry.
It's at 7, no? Episode 7, where you don't have
Cousin.
to... cousin.
But it is in the recent past one of the most beautiful shows I have watched. So The Bear, by far.
So, Kavita, your guilty binge watch series. Your quota of trashy TV.
My quota of trashy TV. Oh my God. So I'm a big romance film watcher. I love it. I mean, when I was younger, I could read those trashy Mills and Boons in like 30 minutes. Those thin
Yeah,
Mills and Boons that you used to get, and then after some time, it really became soft porn, and my mom was really upset. But any new Netflix original that comes out, which is usually a romance, I'm on it like a rash. It's already on my list. I've already watched it. So that's my go-to. Like recently there was this thing about trekking. No, what is it? The beginnings of love or something. It's. I mean, the production is at best. It's good production, short films. It's before you fall in love, have something to give you some friction because you're making the wrong choice. Find your soul mate, and then it's a happy ending.
Yeah.
That's my jam.
So you haven't gotten onto the K-dramas?
No.
Just all
I can't do the K-dramas at all. I can't
Only
do,
K-Joe.
Yeah, the
That's it.
K-Joe, yes. So clearly I like everything that's just like frivolous and frothy. But yeah, no, none of the K-dramas. But on the flip side, I devour things like Succession and other drama that you have on television as well. But my guilty pleasures are these. Like I can go through these films like that.
Right. So this last question is for both of you. So Anand, go first.
You didn't ask Anand what his trashy film is because he really watches trashy shit.
Sometimes my wife Varsha and I sit down and we try and say how trashy it can get
God.
today.
Yeah.
The trashiest one for me is Too Hot to Handle. It's just appalled every time I watch it. But then I'm like, next episode, yes. Yeah, and you know that between episodes when the screen goes black and you can see yourself. Right?
You're like, what are you doing?
What am I doing with my life? And then the next episode begins. Yeah, forget it. Yeah, but the trashiest moments are
Indian
Too Hot.
matchmaking also. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It got worse. I didn't like the
Paria,
last
I watched
season.
the first one, but I really binged that.
The first one was good.
It was
this
really
then
good.
it was.
Seema Paria from Mumbai.
I watched all 3 seasons.
Oh really? Oh my God. I can do that much. That's it. But yeah, you win the trashy cup.
No, definitely compete. Kavita also reads trashy books.
Oh my God. My trashy books take like I said.
Better
Men-
MBs.
yeah,
Better MBs.
Just like, let's keep that on the down low. They're very de-stressing for me.
I concur. I agree. So the last question is for both of you. Anand, you'll go first. Explain your day job to a 5-year-old in less than a minute.
Everywhere around you, you see advertisements. And there is a lot of technology that determines who shows that ad or how it gets shown or when it's shown. And we are one of those technologies. I'm assuming this kid knows the meaning of the word
Technology. I'm thinking, okay.
advertisement.
And I know. Yeah.
So think of all the favorite apps your mom and dad use, and we help them make money. Right? So if that child has
What is money?
Yeah, if it asks me how, then maybe I'll get into it, but I keep it there. So at least it sounds a little more important.
Okay. So that brings us to the end of this podcast.
Hey, we have some questions for
Lovely.
you also, no?
Oh, you have
Yeah.
questions? Oh my
Just-
God, I wasn't ready for this.
That
but
doesn't
thanks. Let me down this.
Yeah.
So what did you think when we first started the podcast? I remember that you used to write a Substack on the podcast at one point in time, which was really stressful.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were all wondering, what do we do with the Substack?
So I think I logged in pretty much like the second or the third episode of the podcast, and so when I joined this, so I was from a different background and everything. What basically the conversation. First, I was just awestruck by both of you. I was like, how are they doing this? Like, this is just
Without the help of alcohol, like we have
anything.
today.
There's no script. There's nothing. I'm like, should I write a script? Because I'm always like, I like to plan and everything. So I'm like, oh, there's no script. This is just jamming. And for an hour, I'm like, how do they do this? I have major fear of camera. So I'm like, okay. And then it was just so illuminating and, just understanding things from this perspective of how the industry works. So just not reading about it, but getting to know about the industry and its problems and everything, and where we are, where Voiro sits between all of this. So it always been interesting, and I love the conversation. I love the jokes. I've done a lot of interviews. I've done a lot of interactions, as an ex-journalist, but this was something like, this is just too amazing. I'm serious. I'm still a fan. I think I'm one of your first fans.
I remember Rohan used to sometimes sit in the room and clack away on his comp, and then we'd be like, "Stop it, stop it! We're doing something serious." He's like, "Okay, fine, okay, fine."
Then he realized it's not serious.
It is not serious.
He would step up.
Yeah, I would step out and be
like,
like, "I can't deal with this anymore."
Yeah. What do you want to see in the next 50 episodes?
I definitely want to see some more guests. I really think their perspectives they bring, it just adds to the flavor of the whole podcast. And it not only informs, it entertains. It's amazing, and it sort of I feel our podcast is sort of a voice to the community at large, and it just brings things together cohesively. It's brilliant. So definitely more guests. What I would like us to do is possibly, have, an out of the office somewhere in a nice location podcast somewhere.
We should go to Cannes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Cannes. Cannes.
I say both
Yeah.
every time.
Cans.
Can.
Cannes.
Yeah. So that's.
You know what I want to do? Remember the group of ops guys who go to Lonavala? We gotta get them.
Yeah.
We gotta get them for this podcast.
Oh, we should go there.
Or we gotta go there. One of the two. So there are twice in our career at Voiro, we were on the outside, right? One was when we went to Delhi and we met one of the ops heads, and he told us that there is this invite only WhatsApp group for programmatic
All the ops guys
people.
are on it.
And we wanted to get in on it. He said, no, unless you're a programmatic ops guy, you're not going to get in on it. And we were like, oh my God, like how do we get in on this group?
Yeah.
And then there is another group of ops people who are in Bombay who take an annual holiday to Lonavala. And and they also are from like really large publishers. And I'm sure that they have many stories to tell. And we have a very, very soft corner for all the ops teams and ops leads and ops heads, because we know we've been in the trenches with them, and
Yes.
we've had some incredible times and some really low lows and very high highs. But I definitely want to have them on our podcast.
I agree. I really
Yeah.
would want the.
And you'll get your stories, your humans.
Yes,
of
I
tech.
I want to not only listen to the stories, but just tell those stories of
Yeah.
these ad ops people, these ad sales. They pretty much run the show for
Yeah.
the company, and they might not always have the limelight on them, but these are the stories that really
And they
matter.
discover stuff. They discover
Yes.
stuff that we never knew was going to happen at all.
The treasure trove of the
Yeah.
knowledge, how it works and everything. It would be just, I can see such incredible stories. I want them to come on the podcast.
Get some
and talk to
customers.
us.
I want to get a high-profile guest.
Like who?
I don't know. Elon Musk, maybe.
Elon Musk, if you're watching us,
Yes. As in, he'll just like
We'd love to have you
stomp
on the
all over us
podcast.
with his.
Do it.
Yeah.
I'm invited.
Do your worst.
I'm invited. Elon Musk, if you're watching us, please. You're invited to on the podcast.
Hey man, I'm on Elon's side. I think you'll win in
Yeah.
this cage fight.
We are putting money on you.
Okay.
Okay. So this was great. I love this. So thank you so much. And let's keep doing this.
Yes.
Thank you.
and
We have a fun episode coming up next week. We are hosting Lava Kumar from
From
Entropic Technologies. And I learned recently that the original Latin root word of that is part of the etymology of the word advertising means attention. And Entropic Tech is all about attention. So I'm curious to learn more on that episode.
Looking forward to that. As always, thank you, Santosh, who's sitting on the sidelines
Quietly.
and quietly listening to all of us, and Gautam. And thank you, everybody, for listening. See you.